This is a coming home, a full circle for me. 30 years ago, I was on this campus getting my master's in Somatic Psychology. So this has been planned for a good year, and I haven't been nervous until today. So I've been so excited, and then today my dog would not leave my side. He just knew something was going on, and I was preparing for today. So it's an honor, and I'm so very excited. And supposedly we had 88 people, which is my favorite number, sign up to be here live, and then close to 300 online. So hi everyone online. This is going to be more of a talk than a workshop. I have a lot to share with you. I've been teaching my financial therapy work for almost 25 years at this point. A decade before that, I was training here, which I'll tell you more about. I'm going to leave at least 30 minutes for Q&A, so you can ask me questions and I can answer them. And as I get going here, I need to move around a little bit. I invite you to some of you have journals, which I'm so excited about. Some of you I can see are going to be taking notes and are prepared. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit about my story, and then I'm going to share some personal finance teachings, some couples money teachings, and a little bit of creative entrepreneur money teachings as well. Can you hear me loud and clear and good? I might want to come down. I just don't want to fall off, which I won't do. Okay, so I always like to start with this, is that when I was growing up, there are three things I wanted to be. And one was a solid gold dancer. Now, do you know what that is? Okay, that dates me a little bit. That shows that I'm Gen X, right? I'm in my 50s. So solid gold dancer was number one. Number two was I wanted to be a businesswoman at the age of 12. I didn't know what kind of business I was going to be in. My dad was in business. He was a businessman. I wanted to be a businesswoman. Third was when I was 16 years old, I asked my parents if I could go to a therapist, if I could go to therapy. I wanted to understand myself on a deeper level, and I started doing talk therapy at the age of 16. So those three things at some point led me to, I got my undergrad at Madison in history, but then I still didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I went and traveled for a while. And when I was traveling at some point, I decided to put together dance movement and therapy, and I thought I made up dance movement therapy at the age of 22. And I soon learned, I didn't make up anything, that there was a school called Naropa, and it was in Boulder, Colorado, which I had never been to. And there were graduate programs at the time. This was 1994 to 1998, right? So at the time, dance movement therapy and body-centered psychotherapy were basically the same program. But what happened was when I heard about Naropa, I went and applied, and back then we'd audition. We had a dance to be in the dance movement therapy track. I came out here, and I started the Somatic Psychology dance movement therapy program at the age of 24. I spent my 20s working in the mental health field, working in hospice, both from the bereavement side and doing overnight care. My favorite topics in my 20s were intimacy, sexuality, body, food, grief, and death. That's what I thought my work would be. That's what I thought my life's work would be. And it's not that it's not, but what happened was I graduated. I finally finished that 150-page thesis that they used to make us write back then. I don't think you have to do that anymore. I finished all my internships hours. I walked across the stage, and I started getting the notices in the mail that my student loan was due. That was the moment when all of a sudden I realized, wait a second, did we talk about money in graduate school as I was training to be a somatic therapist? Did we have any conversations about money? Our own money emotions, our own money stories. What about if I was going to start a private practice and start helping couples and they were fighting about money? How was I going to support them? Let alone, what about when I started a business, which is what a private practice is, and what about the bookkeeping and pricing my services and the whole thing? It became such a shocking revelation, and I'm still nervous, so just give me a few moments here while I just get grounded. But that was this epiphany moment, right, of, wait a second, this was completely left out of my Naropa education. Now, what I did learn at Naropa was everything I needed to be a human, everything I needed to be a mom, everything I needed to be in a healthy relationship, everything I needed to, I learned all of the skill sets I needed, except for the money, except for what is your relationship to money. And in that moment, I thought for a second, well, I can just go running away, I can travel the world and never pay back my student loan. I like to present myself with many, many different options. I thought about it, and I, pretty quickly realized I'm gonna face this big, scary topic like I have every other big, scary topic in my life. So when I first started exploring sexuality in my 20s, that was big and scary. And it's not that, I've resolved that or solved that, but, right, I've grown and evolved. And so what happened in that moment, though, is I realized I was gonna face it. And I definitely at the time thought I was the only one with money issues or money shame. I thought I was the only one. And I started looking around and realizing folks from all different lineages, all different economic classes, all have strengths around money, all have challenges around money, all have many, many different parts and pieces that we did not learn. So I started learning bookkeeping. And that kind of blew my mind because, again, as a dancer, as a creative person, as a therapist, somatic trained, for me to even think about doing a bookkeeping system terrified me. But when I was working at one of the mental health programs, they asked, I was in the milieu for full time. They asked if I wanted 5 hours in a back quiet room to learn Quicken and Excel. And something in me just said, say yes. Now, if you knew me at the time in graduate school, I was throwing away my bank statements. So anyone that knows me from back then or that I lived with, I lived in House of Women. It was called the Goddess House back then, and I would throw away my bank statements. They would come and they would go in the trash, come and go, sit in the trash. So when the head of this program asked me if I wanted to learn bookkeeping, everything in me just said, poker face, do a poker face, and just say yes. Don't reveal to him how terrifying this is or how strange this is that he's asking you, just say yes. He was a beautiful teacher. He held my hand metaphorically. He taught me Quicken. He taught me Excel. And then all of a sudden I realized at the time I was making $11 an hour, even with a master's degree in the mental health field. And I realized there's no money ceilings to break through here. I can't even bring a basket full of dark chocolate to a potluck dinner. I can't even get a massage on $11 an hour, right? So there was a little impetus there of, I want to bring a basket full of dark chocolate to potlucks. I want to be able to get a massage every once in a while. So I wound up taking a little detour, which seemed odd, and I wound up learning everything I could about bookkeeping. At the time, I started reading QuickBooks manuals and accounting books, and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was like, who are you? Like, what are you doing reading accounting books? But I wound up having a little bookkeeping business. After I graduated, the student loan came due for 4 years. I had a bookkeeping business for other therapists and creatives and coaches. And guess what? They had no idea I had a master's degree in somatic psychology. They just threw their books at me. And they just said, please do this, take this. I don't want to have anything to do with it. So I learned during those 4 years doing a bookkeeping business so much about people's relationship to money, their spending patterns, their values, what's important to them, family dynamics. I would go there and there'd be two spouses just fighting about stuff. There'd be some of the younger adult kids in the room. They'd be having interesting conversations. I learned so much during those 4 years. And what wound up happening was I moved to a tiny little town called Sebastopol, California. And I was doing authentic movement at the time. That was my main favorite practice. And I hung up little flyers all around town that I'll be your bookkeeper. And I had wonderful clients back in the day. That's all I had to do is hang up flyers. And I met a woman named Tamara Slayton. She passed away a long, long time ago. There's always someone in the room who knew her. Did anyone know Tamara Slayton from Sebastopol, California? Okay, so she was an incredible woman. I got to be with her the last 2 years of her life before she died of cancer. And she was always looking at the edge of culture, saying, what are the biggest things that need to be worked on? And she did all this work with young women and Rite of Passage and all sorts of things. And then the end of her life, it was economics. And so I was her bookkeeper. I did her bookkeeping, and we had all these money conversations. She would sit us down in a circle, and we would print out one report of just our income and expenses just for 1 month. And I remember holding it to my chest, and it felt like we all were naked. We were like sweating, and then we passed around our report and shared what our numbers were for 1 month. And it just felt like so revelatory just to do that. But pretty early on, she said to me, young lady, it's time for you to give a talk on your method. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? What's my method? I'm great one-on-one. I'm great one-on-two. I'm terrified of giving talks. And she just said to me, young lady, I'm going to bring the group of 20. You just gather what your method is. So I went on long walks in the woods. And I asked, now this is almost 25 years ago, how do I help myself? How do I help my community have a more mindful, savvy, creative, empowered, and so on relationship with money? And I came home one day, and I was living in this tiny little 350 square foot cabin with my husband, and he threw up white paper. Like, he could tell something was going on. He threw up white paper on the walls, and we came up with the 3 phases: money healing, money practices, and money maps, which is the same 3-phase financial therapy method that I'm still teaching today. And it was like this jolt, and I went and gave that 20-person talk. And then from there, I started teaching my financial therapy method in tiny little groups of 10 people in my living room. And then I did that over and over and over in Sebastopol one night, and San Francisco the next night, and Berkeley the next night, and Santa Cruz the next night. I was driving all around, and then people started saying, well, hey, what about telecourse in different parts of the country? And I said, sure, I'll do a telecourse. And I started doing that. And then I had my son. He's 16, so 16 years ago, and I started teaching online, and primarily I teach in very large groups online. For years we had about 500 folks each year. It's a little smaller these days, but it's a big deal that I left my house and left my kitties and left my dog, but I'm so excited to be here. And so I'm going to share this 3-phase method with all of you and share more about my work and the method that I've been teaching. But here's the thing that happened. The very first class that I taught in my living room in an apple orchard in Sebastopol, California, was the very first evening we sat in a circle. And I said, okay, everyone, let's talk money stories, family history money stories. Tell me about your mom's relationship to money. Tell me about your siblings. Tell me about your grandparents, your other mom, or whoever was raising you. Like, tell me. Let's all start talking about family stories. And everyone just shut down. And everyone kind of went into a deer in the headlights. And I realized, what am I doing? What did I just do for a decade? I trained as a somatic therapist. So I'm totally forgetting about the body. So the very next week, people came to my little house again in the redwoods, sat in a circle, and I said, tonight I'm going to teach you a body check-in. And so we're going to do a little version, the same version I've been doing for 30 years since I was, in the Somatic Psychology program. So let's just take a little moment to do a little body check-in. Feel free to close your eyes or leave them open. Let yourself notice on a physical level what's going on in your body. Are the soles of your feet touching the floor? Are your legs crossed? Is your back against the chair? Just see what you notice. Be curious. Next level is sensations. So let yourself notice any sensations in your body. Stillness, movement, heat, cold. Let yourself notice Any emotions that are present right now? We'll be talking more about money emotions. Is there one emotion that's present? Are there a couple? Next, let yourself notice where your breath is in your body, how deep it is, or shallow. And just notice where it is in your throat, in your chest, in your solar plexus, in your belly. And then as a way to complete this little body check-in, ask yourself, what is one little adjustment that you can make right now to help you feel more present or okayness in your body right now? It could be loosening your jaw. It could be doing a little shoulder shimmy. It could be seeing if you can get your breath a little deeper in your body. And when you're ready, come to eyes open. So this little body check-in and bringing it over to the money work changed everything for me, for my students. And I invite folks to do a little body check-in in all of the daily money moments that happen. So when you're going to have a money conversation with your partner, with your love, with your spouse, when you're going online shopping in the middle of the day, late at night, do a little body check-in. When you're going to Target, do you bring in a list? Do you just go in? Body check-in. When you're going to the grocery store, body check-in. When you're going to make a money decision, small, medium, and large, invite a body check-in before as prep, and even do it in the middle or after, because sometimes it's in the middle of the moment. We're having a conversation with our honey, our spouse, and suddenly we're aware of the big money emotions that are coming up for us. So body check-in. And what do you need? Or afterwards as a debriefing. And let's see. So that changed everything in my little groups, changed everything in my teaching. And when people say to me, what's the very first step? Should I start a bookkeeping system? Should I have money dates? And we're going to talk about all of that. Should I start a budget? I say body check-in number one. Start doing a body check-in and bring that to all these different money moments. It starts to help you to bring awareness, mindfulness to what's going on. And we're going to talk more about money emotions, money stories. So I didn't say I'm going to talk a lot, but then I did say we're going to leave 30 minutes for Q&A, right? I did say that. Okay. So let me lead you into some of the money healing. So this is the first phase that I teach. And money healing can't go without money practices and can't go without money maps. You need all three of these phases. And when I was first starting to create my method, I went online and it was just existing back then, but I started reading all the money books. And they all were telling me the same thing, important things like, this is how you live within your means, and this is how you pay down debt, or this is how you invest. And those things are all important, but 90% of our money decisions are based on emotions. It's the only stat I'm ever going to use. And I go back and forth with colleagues. Is it 85%? Is it 90%? Is it 95%? It's somewhere in that range. So if that's true, then where's the money psychology piece? Where's the money emotion piece? So let me talk about the money emotion piece next. But the body check-in is a through line. It's not you do a body check-in one day and you're done. It's doing it over and over and over to slow you down, to pause, to bring more awareness to what's happening in the moment with you, your partner, with these money decisions. So money emotions for me, this was something that I was surprised about when I first started doing this work. I thought somehow there would be a different set of money emotions than regular emotions. But money emotions are the same emotions that come up in every other area of life, from shame to anxiety to electric leaps for the last year. It had been his dream to have an electric car his entire life. And so, what happens, right? I wasn't the one researching the electric leaf. I didn't care about it. And next thing you know, we're in the car dealership. Next thing we know, we're taking a test drive. Next thing we know, we're there with the sales guy. And all of a sudden, I start noticing that my energy is starting to move up. I'm starting to notice that I'm mildly hyperventilating. Now, that might be dramatic, but my emotions can be big, and I just know that about myself. We might touch on the Enneagram a little bit, but Enneagram 4 over here. And so what did I do? I was like, I know that I need a body check-in. The bathroom is a great place to go do a body check-in. I mean, you can do one anywhere, but I went to the bathroom, and I just started having a whole chat with myself of, okay, first we're just gonna say hello to the emotion. No, actually, first it was, where is it in my body? Oh, my breath is going up and up and up. I started noticing that first. Next, what is the emotion? I'm feeling anxiety around making fast decisions. I don't like making fast decisions. And this was, at the time, I didn't. Years later, we bought a house in 36 hours, and I led the way. But in this moment, I still did not like fast money decisions. So I also, in that moment, was noticing what are the sensations in my body, what is the emotion that's present, what is this reminding me of? Oh, this is reminding me of, it was an audit that my parents went through, okay? So I just had a whole little chat, sensations, emotions, what is it reminding me of? Now, what is one little adjustment that I can make, or 2 or 3 or 4, in this bathroom while I'm doing a body check-in? And for me, it was, all right, I've done body check-ins a million times. I know how to get my breath deeper in my body, right? Body check-in number 1, probably could not get my breath down, but body check-in 100, a million, yes. Then what practical support do I need to do next? Well, next, I was ready to leave the bathroom. I had a good little body check-in. I can come out and say, hey, honey, we're gonna have a money date in the car dealership right now. We told the salesman guy, we sat down, had a 20-minute little money date, and we just made up questions in the moment. Sometimes we bring questions on a money date, and I'll talk more about money dates, but I'm mentioning them now, which is, hey, do we have enough cash flow for this car purchase? Yes, because we know our numbers. Well, is this car purchase in alignment with our values? Yes. Right? It's an electric car. Will this car purchase hinder our larger goal of buying a home? So I went from body checking in the bathroom, having a little chat with myself, coming out, having a money date with my husband, and then we made the best decision we could. We drove off the lot with the electric car. It was our second car. We celebrated, and then afterwards we did a check-in. How did that go? Was that a good decision? Are we enjoying that? Okay, so coming back to the body check-in, a little bit about money emotions. All money emotions, they're normal. They come up and they can be really, really big for a lot of us. It's so important. You'll see it in my books, both my books. It lists out all the different money emotions, and it takes you through a moment of, just think of a money moment. Let's just do this for a moment here. Think of a money moment that you had recently. Could be an interaction, you were online shopping, it could be an interaction with your partner. And what was the money emotion or emotions or cocktail of emotions that was coming up in that moment? Without judgment, just being curious. Was it anger? Was it jealousy? Was it sadness? Okay, I'm going to pause there. I'm still nervous. So I'm going to do a body check-in here. Join me if you want. And keep doing these little body check-ins and little adjustments. In the 90s, we didn't call it resourcing. Peter Levine's first book came out in 1998. So it wasn't called resourcing back then. It was just checking in with your body and then ending it with one little adjustment to help you feel more okayness or more presence. So I'm going to keep going here. So money emotions, and I'm giving you little building blocks. So money emotions is first just naming and identifying and being willing to say hello to whatever the money emotion is that's coming up for you. Then where you go next is money stories. Now, money stories is a makeup of everything to do with our money beliefs, messages that we were told as we were growing up, habits, behaviors, culture, religion, lineage, and our Enneagram too, which imagining all of you know the Enneagram. It's my favorite personality typing system. Do most of you know that? So I think the Enneagram plays a big role too in here, right? And I'll give a little example of this. So when I was growing up, I'm the oldest of 3, and very early on, the financial identity that I took on was I wanted things. I liked things. I was passionate. I was excited. I wanted to buy my mom a ring at the school fair. I wanted the candy. I just like things. So I was given the identity, the financial identity of I'm a spender. My younger siblings, they were given the identities really early on. They're the savers. My brother had a little bank. When he was 5, I was a little older. I borrowed money from him once. I hated it. Never happened again. Now, my siblings were more frugal like my mom. I was more like my dad. But there was definitely a message in our family. It was better to be the savers. And something was wrong if you're a spender. Now, these are just buckets. Some people call them money scripts. It's just like the Enneagram. It's a box to identify yourself and go, but I'm so much more, right? So as a kid, we can start to see what were the different financial identities that we took on, what was natural to us. And for many, many years, it took me a while to unravel that a bit. I think that one, I didn't unravel until I was in my 30s, making more than $11 an hour. And then I started learning how to save. And wow, was that satisfying to learn that muscle. And at some point I realized I can be a spender and a saver. We don't have to be stuck in these boxes. I even had a conversation with my mom just a few years ago going, Mom, we can be healthy spenders and unhealthy spenders. We can be healthy savers and unhealthy savers. We can't do too much of any of these things, and you can be both. Like my mom loves her simple Costco coffee and her simple cotton clothes. She loves that, and then she'll go travel and buy business class. So we're all, I would say, complicated, it feels like a ball of yarn where when we're starting to understand our money story, at first it feels weird. Let me back up a little bit to money shame. It feels weird, and I think we're all weird around money. I'll just say that. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no better way. I'm going to keep saying this. We all have strengths around money. We all have challenges around money. So let me go back to money shame a little bit. So money shame, for many, it's not for everyone. Usually people will come to me when they're interviewing me and they're saying, so do most people have just money anxiety? Or do most people just are so angry about money? And I'm like, whatever you're saying is the most, that's one of your top money emotions, right? For a lot of us, it's shame. And shame is this cloak of, I'm not okay. Something's wrong with me. Everyone else learned about money except for me. I feel stupid around money. Or if I just come from a different family, then, I would have been fine with money. Instead of, most of us did not receive a financial literacy education from grade school and up in small increments. I haven't said that yet. Most of us did not receive a financial literacy education. We also didn't receive an emotional literacy education. So that's why my financial therapy method, when it finally came together in 2001, was a merging of financial literacy and emotional literacy. But money shame was the first stop for a lot of folks that come to me. That's why I started doing groups day one. I like private therapy. I'll take on 5 or 10 clients, but I really want groups. Because you know what happens in groups? We start to go, we listen to each other, we hear each other, we share when we're ready. And we start to see, wow, that person's just like me. We even came from different lineages or different economic classes, and we still have the same money habits and patterns. Or wow, they remind me so much of my mom or my sister or my brother. And we start to unshame. We start to unshame just by being in a group and starting to see ourselves or starting to talk about money. I think money is one of the last frontiers. I've been saying it for 25, 30 years. We talk about grief, we talk about sex, We talk about race. Obviously, we need to do a lot more work on all of that. Why is money still such a taboo subject, right? So one of my favorite things is to encourage and invite everyone to start having money conversations. It doesn't mean screaming it from the rooftop. This is how much I make. How much do you make? Or, whatever it is. But just starting to have where it feels safe, where they've, as Brene Brown says, for those that have earned the trust of your sharing, of your deep sharing, to start to initiate new money conversations. It could even be, as going back to, I have so many journaling questions in my books, but it could be when we're sitting down to start exploring our money story, it's what is your first money memory? It's, let's do this one. Not tell me, but write it down or just think about it. One pro and one con about your mom's relationship to money, or whoever was raising you. One pro and one con. What about your role, if you had siblings, what was the role that you took on as a little kid? Spender, saver, never thought about money. And how are you different from your siblings? What were your siblings? It's one of my favorite questions. What was what was your different role? What was your financial identity as a kid? And if you had siblings, what were your siblings? And how was it different? Or what about any money messages that you remember growing up? Like, honey, we can't afford that. Or, honey, money doesn't grow on trees. Or, hey, money's the root of all evil. Or, money's just energy. Money's just a tool. It's how you use it. It could be used for good, bad. Any money messages you remember? Mom, dad, moms, dads, grandparents. So I'm always saying, please be gentle. Please bring in big doses of compassion as you're starting to explore your money story. Because what's the point of being self-critical? Or what's the point of trying to update your financial identity if you're going to be self-critical the whole time? So as you're starting to go back, please be curious, right? Anyone want to do a little body check-in with me? So we've touched a teeny bit on money emotions. I shared a little bit more about shame. How do we unshame? The antidote to money shame is, one version is start doing a body check-in and practice it over and over and over in all these different moments. Another antidote to money shame is going back to your younger selves at different points in your lives, when you were 8 years old, when you were 12, when you were 15, when you were 22, and starting to remember what was your relationship to money at that time, and what were you watching, and what were you learning. I remember my mom paying bills at the dining room table and very nervous and anxious. I remember my parents fighting behind closed doors. I remember my parents being entrepreneurs and that being really exciting and very scary as well. I keep losing my train of thought. So going back to the younger selves And I call it, it's like picking up the bones. It's like going back to our younger selves and saying, hey, 8-year-old, what did you learn? What did you see that was positive and negative around money? What declarations did you make that you're continuing today? And I'll share more stories about that. Or hey, 15, 16-year-old, what about you? And going back to honor the younger parts of ourselves and saying, first giving them a voice. What do they need to share? What did they see? What was hard? What was beautiful? The other side of the money emotions, it's not all the hard ones. Someone, said joy. It's hope, excitement. We want to have the full spectrum here. And then there's fight, flight, freeze in the middle of that. But we want the full spectrum of grief and anger and scarcity and also abundance and joy and hope and all of that. We want the full experience, right, in life with money. So it's going back to these younger selves and giving them time to journal. It's taking them on walks. It's moving them. It's drawing them at different points and just asking them what they learned. Because if we go back and give them a voice and we can start to understand what they went through and also just honor that they were doing the very best they could. So the story that's coming to me is someone who's a little older, but she was very young when she got married, and she was presented with a prenuptial agreement that she didn't read. She just signed. Years later, they had lots of kids together, and they were separating and getting a divorce, and she was shocked at the divorce agreement, at the prenup that she didn't read but signed years ago. She's a completely different woman at this point. So she had to go back to her younger selves to understand and just first honor and give voice to the 20-year-old who signed that without reading it. She didn't have a sense of her value and her worth at that time. So she had to do quite a bit of work, because today she's a completely different woman. And so she wound up creating a whole spreadsheet of all that she's done, from taking care of the kids to everything, and she presented that. Even if there was still a prenuptial agreement and she wouldn't get that, she needed to present what she felt her full value was. And it was both numerical, but it was also intrinsic, everything that she brought to the table for all those years. So many of us have so-called money mistakes. That's what I think I'm trying to get to. I call it so-called in quotes, because how do we learn? By making mistakes. And if we're not taught financial literacy from grade school and up in small increments, then guess what? We're learning it as adults. My community is 25 to 85. I have an 84-year-old man in one of my current groups right now, but it's really, I think, 30 to 80. So it's mostly as adults we're realizing we did not receive a complete, full, even partial financial education, and I'm ready to learn, and this is scary. And I might feel stupid, and I have to go back to beginner's mind, but we can learn all of this, right? So that's, okay, let's see, money emotions, money stories, a little bit starting to understand our money stories, going back to our younger selves to honor them. I do a whole piece on money healing rituals, which we won't do here, but I'll just give you a little, if some of you need to go and do a little ritual of what you are ready to let go of, younger parts, younger selves, in order to step into new parts. It was similar to when I was doing that, or dealing with a saver, spender, different versions of me. I had to realize what's good about my spending, right? Where I get to enjoy. And you can be a good spender and not overspend. And then you can also learn how to save. So one of the things of unraveling something's wrong with me that I enjoy things was reframing that of you can be a healthy spender, you can be an unhealthy spender, you can be a healthy saver, and so on. So updating our financial identities is part of this work, and rewriting our money stories. I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't believe and see over and over and over that we can rewrite our money stories. We can honor the so-called money mistakes that we all have. Most people have some kind of money mistakes, and we can learn from them and milk them and do them different next time. So that car buying story, the next time I went to go buy a car, I wasn't hyperventilating in the car dealership. I just walked in by myself and bought a little cute electric Fiat, right? And then years later, when we went to buy a home, our first home, I really led the way. My husband calls me a freight train in these moments. And I only pull out the freight train card in a few key moments in life. When, at 38, I decided I wanted to have a baby after thinking I was never going to have kids, and we had signed the invisible dotted line, no kids, and here we were 7 years later. I pulled out the freight train card. It's happening. I wanted to be with you. When we went to buy a home, it was the same thing. So every once in a while, I pull out this card. It was similar. So let me just take a moment here. Any questions about this little piece? I know I said I was going to leave questions to the end. We're just starting to go. Money emotions, money stories, financial identities. Yes?
Let me get you the microphone just so that you can
Okay.
hear you on the mic.
Thank you. You talk about ask our younger self
Yes.
what we learned as a child
Yes.
about money. How, for me, that's not enough to heal it.
Okay. Oh,
so
yes.
I need a little more.
Okay.
Once I identify what
Yes.
those stories are.
So for me, I think this is slow-going work. And back in the day, people come to me, I want a quick fix. And I'm like, I'm not your gal for a quick fix. Now, I think change can happen in a moment. We can forgive something in a moment. We can forgive ourselves. We can forgive our God. We can forgive someone else in a moment. But I think a lot of this takes time and looking and exploration. So going back to our younger selves could be done just by journaling and going back to, today I'm going to do a little journaling exploration, journaling ritual where I sit down and I journal for 15, 30 minutes about what I noticed. I mean, I have so many questions in my books that you can ask, but I would say just ask 1 or 2 questions, or even ask your 8-year-old or whatever age you want to go back to, what do you remember? What did you see? What was hard? What was beautiful? What was going on? Or go back, so it's everything from journaling, right, to taking it on walks, doing a whole money healing ritual where you go out into nature. And I have so much on this in my books, but it's really just taking some time to honor the younger parts. It's going to be different for each of us, which are calling out the most, different ages, giving them time. Some people go to therapy for this exact thing, and they'll do some gestalt work. They'll put their 8-year-old in a chair, they'll sit in another chair, and they'll have a conversation with them. And I think it just takes time to understand, what did they learn? What was hard? What was beautiful? What declarations did they make? So I'm going to tell another little piece and then see if I answer your question as I keep going. And I'll come around to it again. So here's some deeper themes that come up. So when we're exploring our money stories, there are a lot of deeper themes that come up. So everything from scarcity, which for me is just not enough. The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist is one of the most gorgeous books. She gave me a little book blurb. If anyone feels scarcity, which is you wake up in the morning, I didn't sleep enough. You wake up in the morning and you're already like it's not enough, or you're walking around and you're not feeling enoughness. So deeper themes can be scarcity. Or enough, what is enoughness? What does that feel like in my body? Deeper themes are, what is our value? What is our self-worth? Is it dependent on our numbers or is it not? So I always say, please don't equate your self-worth with your net worth. Please, now Enneagram 3s are going to have a really hard time with that, because Enneagram 3s really feel their net worth is their self-worth, and vice versa. Right? They're great at making money, they're really successful, but that's not everything of who they are. So some of this work goes deep into self-worth. Now I always say, we're born uniquely human, we're born with our value and our worth. It has nothing to do with the numbers in our bank account, right? And at the same time, we need to create a business or create our work or work for someone and make money, unless we're gonna, for food and all of that. And so we need, which I'm going to talk about a business side as well today, but so Self-worth and value is also under there. What else is under there? Feelings of responsibility, or feeling like, is Prince or Princess Charming just going to save me? Where are they? So Barbara Stanny wrote a great book on Prince Charming is not coming. So some of us are actively waiting for someone to do this money thing for us and just save us. Where are they? Where are they, right? So that's another one. Security. So Janine Roth, who does such great work about body and food, and at some point she wrote a book called Lost and Found, which is about money. And it's about her feeling her whole life as though security for her was about investing. Her father taught her to invest at a really, really, really young age. And then one day she gets a call that all the money she invested with Bernie Madoff is gone. And so the whole book is, what is true security? And how did she find that? And she eventually got some of that money or a lot of that money back, and she eventually started investing again because that was really important to her. But it's a whole journey of what does true security really mean? Again, is it about the numbers, or is it separate from the numbers? Or is it a combination of both, right? It's about the money and it's never about the money. So there's a whole chapter in my book called It's About the Money and Never About the Money. And this chapter surprised me because it wasn't in the original outline. But I'll name one more that comes up a lot is power dynamics and power. There's so many themes. So security, safety, enoughness, value, worth, power. So some of the declarations that I made as a teenager, because I had a father who were very similar, but we also did quite a power dynamic dance. And my dad used power around money all the time. I came from a middle-class family. He would be very generous, and then there would be these strings attached that he didn't speak to, like that he didn't convey to me directly. I'll give you a few examples. So I'm in college, and every week I have to print out, go to the photocopy machine, Kinko's, does that exist anymore? And make a photocopy of my paper ledger. Every week I would send it to him. There were never discussions on how much money, what was my limit, what was my budget, what I could do, what I couldn't do. I would send him every week a copy of this paper ledger. One time, I would put in like a bag of weed, $20, like waiting for my dad to say something, and he didn't, right? So that happened. So, but what's the matter with that? You know, like one day he just sent me out at 15, go get a job, go apply for 5 jobs and come back. I was like, I don't know how to apply for a job. I don't know what I want to do. He did a real tough love for me. I can now appreciate a lot of it. I'm going to tell you one more story. This is going to be quite a privileged story. I got to go to Italy for my junior year abroad. And I was there for a little bit, and one weekend friends went to France, so I went with them, and I came back and I called my dad on the payphone from Italy, from Florence. I said, hey, Dad, we all went to Florence for the weekend. And he said, what? I didn't say you could do that. So he said, I'm going to stop sending you money. And he stopped sending me money. Now, again, it's what a privilege to be in Florence, Italy. And he decided to just stop sending me money. I didn't know when it would come again. I didn't speak the language. So we had a lot of power dynamics that even years later, even there's new things you learn all the time about your money story. It's not like one and done. I think we could do little pieces of work at different points when things come up, or we intentionally go back to younger parts to understand them. But even when I was writing my first book, which is 11 years ago at this point, I was noticing and learning and being reminded of all these power dynamics. So what were the declarations I made as a teenager? I have to make my own money. I'm never fucking getting married. Can I swear? I'm never, right? I made some declarations. And then as a 20-year-old, later 20-year-old, 30-year-old, had to unravel all of that. Is that healthy? My stance of always having to make my own money? Yeah, there's a lot of good skills in there, and that is healthy, but you can do it to an extreme. What about I'm never going to get married? I did at 35. All these things that came out of my dynamic with my father. Now, if you read my first book, at the end, it ends with him, and there was a lot of healing with my father the last few years of his life when he had a stroke and passed away, and it's a tribute to him at the end of my book. And we did a lot of beautiful healing. But there was so much power dynamics that were coming up for me in the deeper themes. So those are also to look at those as you're starting to explore money's story. What are the different themes that keep coming up for each of you? One of those, a couple of those, all of those. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Any other questions right now before I move on to, I want to do some money practice stuff.
Barry, we had one question
Yes.
online.
Okay.
It was, after the body check-in,
Yeah.
what are 2 to 3
Great.
quality money questions we can ask ourselves
Great.
to start our money healing?
Okay, so body check-in, I would say, really bring the body check-in like in your tool bag, in your pocket, everywhere you go, right? You won't remember it first, but you'll suddenly be in the middle of a heated conversation with your spouse and suddenly go body check-in. I'm so pissed right now, or I'm screaming right now, or I'm swearing right now, or I just want to leave the room. What's going on? Body check-in, right? So I would say body check-in first is any of those levels, the physical level, the sensation level, the emotional level, where's your breath in your body, and always ending a body check-in with what is one little adjustment that I can make to help me feel more present or okayness in my body right now. Okay, that's number one. A second question after that whole process, I usually like to ask myself, what does this remind me of? It's one of my favorite questions. What does this remind? I always have something. What is this reminding me of? What's the image? What's the memory? What's the feeling? That's one of my questions. I teach a lot of questions and have journaling questions, but I also think we can craft our own little body check-in, bringing awareness and mindfulness to all these different money moments. It might be different. I like to bring a set of questions for me when I'm in the car dealership. Those were a set of questions. When I'm going to the consignment store, I might have a few questions like, do I need this? Do I already have one in my closet? Do I really want this? Will I really get the value and enjoy it? I like to carry around a set of questions. When I'm going into Target, I like to make a list, because guess what happens when I go into Target? I'm a little ADD-ish. I want everything. I get very excited, right? Or I just get overstimulated. So if I have my list, then I can stay in my body. I can stay grounded for the most part, or notice when I'm checking out. I'll give a little example. Another story is popping up. I worked with a woman who said she needed to buy a new Apple computer. She went into the Apple store, and what happens? The sales guy comes over, and all of a sudden he's telling her, the next price range, the better ones, the more bells and whistles, and she goes, oh my God, of course I want that. I want that and I need that. And her inner teenager started screaming at her, get that one. So she has been through my work. She knew to stop and pause and say, can I do a body check-in here? Nope, I'm going to go to my car. She left the Apple store. She went to her car. She did a little body check-in in the car. And she was like, what is going on, teenager? She had a whole little chat with her inner teenager in the car. The inner teenager wanted it now, wanted the best one, wanted the, she just gave her teenager some space and time. And then she left the car, came back, and bought the mid-price point that she had initially set as her goal and her intention. I just went off on, did I answer that question? Kind of. Kind of. I want you all to craft your own little questions in that moment. I think the first thing is the invitation is to bring the body check-in to the money conversations before. I'm going to have a really scary money conversation with a new accountant. I'm going to have a money conversation with a financial planner. Maybe you make a list of questions that you want to ask them before. Maybe in the middle of the financial planner's office or bookkeeper's office, you go body check-in, and you do a body check-in right there, and you just let yourself notice what's happening in your body on any of those levels, complete it with resourcing, and then that's great from there. If you want to continue, it could be, what is this reminding me of from my childhood? Or what is this moment, or what's the money message here? Or what's the money belief here? But I would say just start, for me, what did I learn at Naropa? Awareness leads to deeper understanding of ourselves, leads to change. That simple little equation. So starting to bring awareness and mindfulness to all these different moments. When the check comes and you're out with a group of girlfriends or friends, what happens in your body? Do you immediately go, oh, I'm going to cover everyone? Do you immediately think, well, they make more money than me, so they should pay? Or I'm going through a hard time, or I make more money than them, right? There's a whole thing that can happen. So do you talk about it? Do you not talk about it? What comes up? You might just want to do some body check-ins for a while, or just say, hey, can we split this? Can we split this, right? And then afterwards, sometimes we leave a moment like that, and we're like, wow, I would have done it different, or wow, such big emotions came up for me in that moment. And that's okay. That's how we learn. So awareness leads to a deeper understanding in all these moments. It's like whatever theme we're working on is bringing awareness and mindfulness and body check-ins to all of these money conversations. When you're going to tell a client your fees, what do? Do you stand in it? Do you immediately offer them a discount? What happens? So it's just a learning, and being gentle and kind and compassionate over and over and over. And then a body check-in after for how would I do that different next time? How would I have that money conversation with a friend or a client or my partner different next time? So let me talk about this middle section, money practices, a little bit to give you a piece here to fill it out. And then I still want to do a piece on couples and business owners. So the next piece is money practices. Again, it's not like one day you're done with your money healing, but you might want to take a break. But all the tools and practices you're learning in the money healing need to be brought to money practices. So everyone has some kind of self-care practice, right? Or you take care of yourselves, right? We have self-care practices. And so at some point I realized we need to have that about a relationship with money as well, right? So whether it's, well, this is what I'm inviting you all to do, is start crafting a self-care money practice. It could be 5 minutes a day, it could be 10 minutes a day, it could be 15 minutes every few days, 30 minutes a week. I call them money dates. And what is a money date? A money date is simply, hey money, what is one next step that I can take right now? Now some of us have our money date, our to-do lists. We already have them, and they're never ending. They will go on until we die. That's the bad news, that's just the reality, right? But we can mark them off. And for me, the only way that I was gonna have a relationship with money 25, 30 years ago was if I could imbue my life, anything I did around money, with the ritual, the deeper meaning, the creativity that I learned at Naropa. So this is where you have to bring, that was the only way. It was like money was so boring to me. As you know, I threw away my bank statement. So how was I going to get in here? It was, I'm going to ritualize it. I'm going to have a money date every day, like 5 minutes a day at the beginning. I'm going to light my candles. I'm going to get out my good dark chocolate. I'm going to get out my essential oils. Some people love to play music. I don't. I like quiet. Other people love music. Some people get dressed up. My folks do all sorts of things here in a money date. But it's sitting down and saying, hey, money, what is one next step or two next steps that I can take right now? It might be, oh, I need to move money over from this account to that account. Oh, when I wake up, after I deal with family and stuff and animals, I'll have my cup of coffee. I like to go online, look at my balances, just to see, like, does everything look cool, right? Does everything look right? I might open them up and then get in there a little further and say, is there any funny business? Like years ago, someone bought a lot of clothes at a men's clothing shop, right? And so I caught that and called my bank within 48 hours. But a money date is just, there's all these little steps that you can take. Go look at your balances. Go see if the expenses look right. Are there any money leaks? I love getting rid of money leaks. Money leaks can be, I have 3 TV subscriptions, I don't need 5. Yes?
What is one next step to do what?
Okay, so when it comes to money, all the practical to-do steps. I want to learn a bookkeeping system so I can start tracking my numbers and befriending my numbers so I can start to see how much money is coming in, how much is going out. Oh, hey, first I need to research what are the best bookkeeping systems out there. Hey, I would never teach myself a bookkeeping system on my own like my husband. One night he taught himself Mint, which doesn't exist anymore, they retired it, or Quicken. I needed someone to hold my hand for months on end, with chocolate breaks, with tissue breaks, to learn it. It took me 3 to 6 months. Hey, I need a new accountant. Or, I mean, the list goes on. Oh, I need to sit down and send out some invoices. Oh, I need to sit down and pay some bills. Oh, I need, right? So these are all the practical money to-dos that we have in life. Oh, I need to fill out those tax forms. How fun. Oh, I need to get a new accountant. How do I do that? So the money to-do list are all the practical to-dos that we all have to do that we usually ignore, stick our head in the sand, don't deal with, or we sit down, and here's another great awareness moment. When you sit down to do a money date, you do body checking first, always. And then you watch and you notice. Do you sit down and pay your bills as fast as you possibly can to get it over with? Do you notice that you keep getting up for a snack? Now, snacks are important. We need snacks. But, do you need to set a time? Like, there's a lot of ADD strategies that are great for money dates. People set timers, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. They take dance breaks. Seriously, go dance around your room, then come back and do another next step. A lot of folks with ADHD, when they're doing money dates, they need a buddy. Body doubling. I don't understand why it's called body doubling, but just need a partner in action to help them hold them accountable. In one of our programs every Saturday morning, we have a little group money date. It's a co-working session, and it's folks around the world get on a little Saturday morning co-work, so they're in a group. So they're being held accountable. So that's a little bit, it's creating a self-care money practice, because I see this area of life like a garden, right? And so you don't want to overwater it, underwater it. Usually most of us underwater it. We ignore it. Some of us overwater it. So what's that middle place, and what's a self-care money practice where you're sitting down? For years at the beginning, I did my own bookkeeping and tracking on QuickBooks. Every day for 5 minutes, I would go to my QuickBooks, pull out my receipts, and just track what was coming in and what was going out. It was such an incredible mindfulness practice to do that for years before I handed it over happily to a bookkeeper that I trust. So there's a lot in this money dates and the self-care practice. I'll name one more thing here, and then I'm going to move on to couples. How are we doing with time? We're doing good. So here's another little fun tool to bring in. Years ago when I was doing this work, everyone was talking about values-based investing, socially responsible investing. And that mentor that I mentioned, Tamara Slayton, that I mentioned her earlier, I mentioned that I got to be with her the last 2 years of her life. When she passed, within a month of that, I had a dream that I went to my mailbox. So I was still living in the apple orchard, had to walk pretty far to get to the mailbox. I opened up the mailbox, and there was a huge red book, a paper book. Now, she was an artist, and she made paper, and she made lots of things. So when I opened up this book, it was Tamara's book of life. And it was line by line of her life and her family and her interactions and her work and her teaching. And then there was a numerical number next to it. And I thought, is this sacrilegious? Why are there numbers with her life activities? But it was her book of life, and it felt sacred, and it felt beautiful to me, and it felt like this is everything about her. So I wanted to, when I was teaching people how to use Quicken or QuickBooks back in the day, when I was doing it myself, if I was going to sit down at a bookkeeping system like QuickBooks, which felt so boring and dry at the beginning, I wanted it filled with values. I wanted it filled with what was important to me. I wanted it to be filled with what is important to you and your values. So one of the little exercises I do is renaming. And so here's some examples of that. You can't go that deep with mortgage or rent, right? But a little deeper, it might be home or sanctuary. Or when I was standing in a room of 100 financial planners, all in suits, the woman running it raised her hand and said, Love Shack, because she was newly married for the second time in her 50s. So that's a little deeper, but that's not that much deeper, but that's one little example. Let me give you two more. One is a woman I worked with, and she was tracking her numbers on Quicken for the very first time. And she would print out a report every month and see how she was spending her money and how money was coming in. One of her top values, though, was creativity. And so she wanted to add in creativity as one of her expense categories. So we added in creativity, and then she continued to track her numbers, print out her reports, and there was a 0 next to creativity. So we sat down and said, what are some subcategories of that? And she said, she was in her 30s, I've always wanted to dance and learn how to, so she started taking Zumba classes. I've always wanted to be in theater. So she had subcategories for dance classes and theater classes. She then continued her tracking, and after many months, she printed out reports. She was starting to see some numbers next to her creativity value, and it was getting her to take dance classes. She eventually became a Zumba teacher. She eventually was in theater classes, and then she was in plays. She got to be in Miss Saigon. She got to be in Vagina Monologues. My husband said I just tell this story so I can say Vagina Monologues. So that was one other example. One more, we get even deeper. I worked with an accountant, and he said, this is kind of funny business for me, renaming. We don't rename categories. It's professional development, it's professional fees, it's the regular categories. But he renamed one of his debt categories that was a medical debt for his wife who had cancer, and she made it through, and she had survived cancer. And he renamed that medical debt. I remember what it was, but he said it made such a difference in his life just to rename that category. Because for so many of us, the debt category is that damn debt. That's the name we give it, that damn debt. Instead of, I was in a big transition in my life. I left a corporate job that I hated to start my own business. I was in a health crisis. I wanted to go back to school. There's so many different transitions that we all go through. They need to be honored, they need to be named, right? You need resources during any transition. Some of us have family money, some of us have saved. If we don't, then guess what? We're going to a 0% credit card, right? Or we're going to help us through that transition. So I want to know on a deeper level what was going on at that time and rename it and honor it. I worked with a woman who, she had so much shame around her debt, but she chose 2 things very intentionally. One was to write a book, and 2 was to start to get her real estate license. So they're very intentional. It wasn't dining out, right? Or, now I love dining out, but that's not what she was doing. So it really was significant for her when she honored what that debt was. One other woman, a little lighter, but she wouldn't even look at the numbers of her debt, let alone see the interest rates or pay it down. I sat with her, what was this debt from? She said, it was this whole trip to Italy that changed the course of my life, that changed me who I am. So we renamed it playfully, my big Italian adventure. And she, after that, started sitting down and looking at the total number of the debt, looking at the interest rate, coming up with a monthly payment plan, right? So this renaming is not for everyone, but for those of you that need a tool like this, start renaming. And there's tons of exercises in my books and on my blog and podcasts and all of that to rename your categories. So when you sit down at your numbers, whether it's your personal numbers, your business numbers, you're seeing what's important to you and what your values are. It makes such a difference when you go, when you get in there. Okay, so that's another little one. So that's more of the money practice area. Okay, I want to do 2 more pieces and then open it up to more questions. How are we doing? Doing okay? Okay. All right. So, when I had my son 16 and a half years ago, I got online. And I teach all online. Every few years I leave my house for work and I'll go and, go to New York but anyway, I do all this online sitting at a computer, so this is just, it's been a while. So here, let me talk about couples a little bit and couples money dates. What I want to talk about couples is that couples polarize. So somehow we get this in every other area of life. We fall in love, And even if you're not in a couple right now, I don't want to lose you right now because you've been in one. Maybe you vowed, I'm never doing it again, but maybe you want to do one in the future, or maybe you can review how it went, right? So no two people earn money, save money, give money, invest money, loan money in the same way. So couples polarize. So I was saying we fall in love, right, for lots of reasons. And then at some point we realize we're different and we're horrified. And then that happens around money. We're even more horrified. Like this is the worst thing ever. So how do couples polarize? One person can be, I'm the smarty pants because I got the finance degree, right? I got the business degree, the accounting degree, whatever. I'm the one who knows everything. So I'm going to be your teacher and show you how to do things. And the other one feels like, wait a second, I'm more of a creative person. I feel stupid around money. And that's a split, right? And I want to tell a couple story about that. Other couples, one person is very vigilant, both because they like numbers, they like spreadsheets, they like learning a bookkeeping system. They're going to learn it. They're going to be the ones to do it. Also, they like the control. So they like to have control of the situation, so it can go to the extreme of hypervigilant. What does the other person do? They stick their head in the sand. They go undercover. They're like, I'm not dealing with this at all, right? Now, of course, we're not one or the other. Again, it's like the Enneagram or spender saver. These are just boxes. But when it comes to couples, we can really, at some point, like, it can go to even more extremes. Or one person feels like everything's great, like it's all going to work out, right? And the other person feels like, oh, that's it. It's doom and gloom. Like it's going to end in awful, right? And so sometimes we polarize that, and one person is holding, it's always going to work out, and there's magical bookkeeping, and don't worry. And the other person is thinking, no, I'm going to tell you all the doom scenarios that I can, that I foresee. So there's lots of different ways that couples polarize. Now, guess what? There's never one person's right, one person's wrong, one person is a smarty pants. We all have different approaches and styles around money. So even when people go to take my program, they take it as a couple. I say, first start doing your own work. Because even how you're going to approach this program is going to be different. One of you is going to do every single exercise in every module. The other person is going to say, tell me one thing to do, I'll come in every month, and I'll listen to one interview, right? Someone's slower, someone's faster. That all has to be okay. That all has to eventually be okay. But at first, yes, we do go running. When we get the credit card statement, we see how our partner spent money on something that horrifies us, and we go running to them. And they might be in the shower. And we're like, you spent what? On what? Or right before bed, you start talking about money. I've done it all, right? But it's wonderful to start saying to your partner, hey, honey, when would be a good time to have a money chat? Hey, honey, when would be a good time to have a little money date? Now, I have a couple, he hates the word money and date being put together. He'll have money chats, he'll have dates, but no money dates. So she has to know to say to him, can we just have a money talk? And he's always in. And here's a little 4-step process for couples. Because I work with couples at the beginning, 5 years in, 10 years in, 30 years in. And there are new things to learn about each other around money, even 30 years in. Because guess what? Couples have been together, they're not talking about their money stories, their money relationship, money patterns, dynamics. They are, but maybe they're fighting about it, or it just doesn't feel safe, or there's just no container for them to even have any money conversations at all. So this is how I help couples back up, start from the beginning again. And step 1 is story time. So it's setting up a space. It could be out for dinner, over a glass of wine if you don't drink. It could just be out for dinner. It could be over the kitchen table. It could be for a walk. And story time is you each get 15 minutes to start sharing money stories, family history. What did you learn from your mom around money? What did you learn from your dad? What did you learn from your grandparents? What were the money messages? What was your role? Was it different than your siblings? What were your first money memories? My whole first book is all storytelling. Oops, I keep hitting that. Is all storytelling. My stories, the community stories. The second book is all journaling questions. So story time is step one with couples. And all the stuff that you do when you're trying to have really hard conversations. You each get 15 minutes. You don't respond to the other person. We're trying our best to make it a no shame, no blame space. So you get to share for 15 minutes, and the other person is over there doing their own body check-ins. And then you switch, and then you get to share for 15 minutes, and the other person is doing their own body check-ins. And you start with story time, and that could be one date, it could be many dates. I have a couple that it took them 6 months to move through this process, and then I'll share their story at the end. Step 2 of a couple's money date is values. So again, on the surface, we might fall in love for many reasons, but one of them is we share the same values. But then when we go to spend and save and give, we're different. So one of our stories was years ago, my husband came to me and said, I want to get a road bike. And I just was like, what? An expensive road bike? I don't understand big ticket bikes. Like, I didn't get it at all. But he came back to me and presented me with a bit of a PowerPoint presentation on why this road bike would get him sexy points, would make him healthier. He was dealing with a health issue at the time, how he was going to pay it, like half of it up front and then get 2 more clients. He presented me with this whole thing. I said yes, it went great in many, many, many ways. Guess what he was horrified on my end for? Acupuncture, massage, facial lotions. He doesn't get that at all. He's like, so we added up as a fun exercise a few years of my acupuncture and massage and facial lotions. Guess what? It equaled his expensive road bike. So talking about your differences, how you earn differently, how you spend differently, how you give differently. The third one is who's on what. So this is who's doing the bookkeeping. And you have to be surprised. Like, as I said, I did the bookkeeping for so many years, and then when I got pregnant, my husband declared he was going to take over the bookkeeping. It totally surprised me. I loved it. Right? So you can switch roles, but it is who's tracking the numbers, who's looking at the numbers. Do you need to bring in someone on your financial support team to be a third party, like a bookkeeper or financial coach or a financial planner? Do you need to bring in one of those folks and have monthly meetings because you two go at it so much? But it's who's on what is the third thing. Who's tracking the numbers? Who's moving money over? Who's paying down the debt? Who's paying for what? Who's on all of that? And can that be shared at different points, right? I'll complete with a fourth thing is making sure realizing you're on the same team. That this is not a war. You guys really are on the same side. You're on the same team. So conversations that happen here are, who wants to leave their job? Who really needs to? Who's going through a health thing right now? Who's ready for a sabbatical? What about travel? Can we do some of this travel right now? So it's our larger visions and goals, and really making sure that we're on the same team. Does someone really need a break because they've had a steady job for years and they need to do something different, and can that be okay within your family finances? So that's what step 4 is. Step 1 is story time. Step 2 is talking about values, different ways you spend. Step 3, and who's on what with the practical, and 4 is really making sure you get on the same team, you're on the same side. Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Look at the time. Okay, I'm gonna do one more piece, and then I'm gonna open it up. So I had said, or if you had read the bullet points of what we were gonna cover, a little bit about understanding money emotions, working with money stories, ritualizing money dates, learning how to make good spending decisions. And I added this morning when I was posting about it, learning some savvy, creative entrepreneur strategies. So this last piece is kind of a combination of how do you make good life and money decisions? And if you're a business owner and creative entrepreneur, this is for you, but it's also just how do you make good life and money decisions? Okay, so I'm always trying to come up with fun, creative ways to get people engaged in all of this. And when I heard the term Koan, K-O-A-N, which probably most of you know, It's a riddle to be meditated upon in Zen Buddhism, whereupon you eventually reach enlightenment. And I thought, well, I want to have, what about we all have some money koans. We all have some money riddles, some money challenges that we haven't figured out a solution, let alone reached enlightenment with. So I'm not going for the enlightenment here, but I'm going for creative solutions to really hard, challenging money riddles that we all have in life. And I'm going to give you some examples. So whenever I'm dealt with a money koan, this is how I go about it. And I'm going to give you some business model examples to show this. So money koan, number one, I already shared it. I was in my 20s working at the mental health field, got the master's degree, making $11 an hour. My money koan at the time was, they're not bumping me up. The program I'm working for is not bumping me up beyond $11.23. I keep trying, I keep going to them and saying, do I have enough points yet? Do I have enough points yet? So I was like, I'm gonna make a list of wild creative ideas to try to break through this $11 an hour money ceiling. And that's when I learned the bookkeeping, and that's when I decided to leave the mental health field, take a break, and go work at Rudy's Bakery. Do you all know Rudy's Bakery? Right? This is 30 years ago. And they paid me $13 an hour, and then $15 an hour. And then that contractor taught me QuickBooks and said, I'll pay you 20 and then bump you up to 25. So what happened was I had a money koan. It was a little one, but it felt huge at the time. I want to be able to bring chocolate to potlucks. I want to be able to get one massage. How do I move through a money ceiling here? I made a list of ideas and was like, I'm taking a little detour. I'm going to go learn accounts receivable and work at Rudy's Bakery. Right? Number one. Another money koan I dealt with was I had started my business. I was doing the financial therapy groups. I was living in the apple orchard. And it felt like I was doing well, but everyone was eating the apples off my tree. That's what it felt like. Like I was making enough, but I wasn't getting to the next level, right? And so I decided to ask the people in the community, some older folks than me, I was 32, if they would be on my board of directors. I was a sole proprietor. I just wanted support. I wanted community. So I had 5 or 6 people that said yes, and every month I fed them. They came over to the house and we brainstormed business ideas. How was I going to move through this money ceiling, make more money as a sole proprietor when everyone was eating the apples off my trees? During that time, other women started coming to me saying, oh, hey, Bari, I'm putting myself through graduate school to be a therapist and I'm doing bookkeeping on the side. Or, hey, Bari, I'm in corporate accounting and I'm getting a yoga training. Or, hey, Bari, so all these women started coming to me and I was thinking, I don't have a team. But then I realized, oh, they want me to set up a team. So I wound up setting up a team and had an umbrella where I would give all the talks every week, everywhere. And this was much more comfortable back then because I was doing it so much. And they were in my umbrella. At the end of my talk, I would say, now go to my bookkeeping trainer because she'll sit down with you and hold your hand and show you how to track your numbers. Or, oh, you want to learn budgeting? Go work with one of my financial coaches. And they got 70% and I got 30%. So the money ceiling, my income went up dramatically by that little moment. Here's 2 more ideas, 2 more moments. One is, I mentioned that at 38 I woke up and all of a sudden changed my mind and decided I wanted to have a son named Noah. I knew he was coming. It's a wonderful story, but that's for another day. And I had, at that time, this whole umbrella of the bookkeeper and trainers and financial coaches and a few assistants and this great team underneath me. And then I got pregnant and I gave birth to my son, and I had a pretty big, I had a pretty big challenge in the labor that we both made it through. And so on the other side of that, I needed to recover. I thought I'd be plowing ahead. I thought I'd wake up the next day and go, start teaching right away. So the money koan then was, how do I do my work while I'm sleep deprived, recovering, love being a mom? This is my priority right now. What can I do while I'm in recovery? I can't work 30, 40, 50, 60 hours like I did before I had my son, and I had so much energy in my 30s. So money Cohen goes up there. Here's the riddle. Here's the challenge. Now let me start making a list of questions that I've never asked before. I'm just going to throw out creative questions like, what can I do on 10 hours a week that I love to do, that I could do easily, that I could do while recovering and sleep deprived? And that would make me the most money in 10 hours. And what I wound up doing was teaching online classes of 50 people. I did 2 of them. And then I learned to say no. Can I take you out for tea? Can I pick your brain? Can I take you? No, because I had 10 hours now. And that's all I could do was in those 10 hours, I had to be incredibly productive. So that I'm going to tell you one more money Cohen example. But what you're starting to see here that I really want to highlight is whenever I'm making life and money decisions, I'm looking at this equation. Money, it's not necessarily first. Time, energy, family, and health. So money, energy, time, family, and health. It's not this perfect equation. If a life decision comes up, I'm not like, all right, 20% here, 20% here. It's just something that I'm holding. Something that I'm holding, always. And my business and everything is crafted around that. So I will say in that decision-making moment when I went from working 30, 40, 50 hours and had the whole team, I let go of that whole team after I had my son. I went back to a one-woman show and worked for 10 hours just for the next few years. For the next few years, I had to tell myself daily, this is a transition. This will not last forever. Yes, our income is way down. But here's another really key thing. In a long life, we're going to have ebbs and flows. We're going to have ebbs and flows with money as well. That was one of those ones where I thought, like, there's money emotions and then there's regular emotions. I thought, like, we have ebbs and flows in life, but not in money. So not every year are we earning more and saving more and giving more. Those are fabulous years. But that's not always. Some years we're just holding on. Some years we're going under a little bit, right? Some years we're not making more and saving more and giving more. Some years we're in maintenance mode. And so this time, for those few years when I was a new mom and in recovery, daily I had to have chats while I was on a walk, holding my son. This is a transition. It's not going to last forever, right? It's going to change. And as soon as he started sleeping again at 3, this is what happened. Then I got tons of energy, and I was ready to grow again. And so I said, now, this is my money Cohen. So at different points, money Cohen's, again, I'd always make more. When I had my son, it was, I'm going to simplify. I'm going to go to 10 hours a week and be okay with that. And we're going to learn how to live within that, whatever was coming in at that time. At this point, son's sleeping. He's 3 years old. And I'm like, I'm ready to grow. I'm sleeping. He's sleeping. So how do I offer my work in a new way that I've never done before? How can I be more generous with my work more than ever before? How can launches, stop feeling like launches and feel so intense? Like, how can I just open? I made a list of all my creative questions. And each money Cohen, it's different. Each money Cohen, it's different. This time it was, I am going to do a year-long program. I've never done that before. The last time before I had my son, I was kind of pulling teeth to get 60 people or 50 people in a group. How do I, guess what, lower my price point? So in the online world, it's always raise your fees. I love raising fees. My private fees are high. But sometimes with groups, you can lower them. And guess what happens? You can get a lot more people, move through a money ceiling. So I decided to open up a year-long program, be way more generous with my content than ever before, interview all these financial colleagues that I had been collaborating and developing and cultivating for years, put all this content online, lower the price point so it was more reasonable, and we opened the door and got 320 people in 2013. And so that money Cohen where I was like struggling to pull teeth, I rearranged my business model. I rearranged the offerings. I asked new questions. How can I be more generous? How can I honor my time and my energy? The year long is so lovely, and my time and energy, and be with my family and health. So those are just a few little examples of when you're in a money Cohen. Now it could be around your business, it could be around income, it could be where can I buy an affordable house? It could be all sorts of things. I need to pay down debt. How are we going to do this? So that to me is a money koan. It's a riddle. It's a money riddle to be meditated upon, whereas you eventually come to some kind of new solution or answer that you never saw before, that seemed like a brick wall with no handle. And then eventually you do your body check-ins, you make your list of new questions, you reach out and say, who do I need support from? Maybe I need a new bookkeeper on my team. Maybe I need a new accountant. Maybe I need someone new on my team. And then eventually, some of these money koans sometimes resolve in a few weeks, some of them a few months, some of them a few years. So hang in there with them. Do your body check-ins. Make your lists of questions, right? And always be willing and open to be creative and move things around. And that this is ongoing.